Hey, everybody. Welcome to our final source for our final essay of the year. And of course, that essay the topic is, which is better, revenge or forgiveness? Break it down to the unit question, which is better, virtue or vengeance? It's the same thing. Is it better to forgive somebody who has wronged you or take out your revenge on them? Is it better to let it go, or is it better to go after them and try to make them suffer as well? The first source that we have read in this research quest would be Let South Africa Show the World How to Forgive, which was an amazing speech, true story. We've talked about it several times. Clearly, it provides us with amazing quotes to help us to answer that question. The second source we read was Forgiveness Defined, which was an article which told us what it meant to forgive and what it could do for us. The third source we read was The Power of Forgiveness, which is pretty much the same as Forgiveness Defined, except it told us a little bit more about the positive things that forgiveness can do for a person, specifically how it allows you to move forward. The fourth thing we read, fourth source, was 7 Reasons Why Seeking Revenge is a Bad Idea, which gave us 7 reasons to explain to us why revenge is actually the wrong way, how it's unhealthy for you mentally and physically. The fifth thing we read, which is really cool, is a Korean folktale, which is, of course, how a community passes down their customs and their beliefs. Before things were written down, they just told stories, and it was passed down by word of mouth from generation to generation. And that folktale was what we plant, we will eat, which is very cool. Of course, metaphorical, because, it's literally what the father was saying and what the boys were saying is what you plant, you will eat. But they were speaking also metaphorically. There was a double meaning, and it had to do with, forgiving people and taking out revenge and holding resentment against people and just being angry. The sixth thing we read, and that's going to be the thing we're reading now, is Understanding Forgiveness. And that is our last source for this essay question, which again is, which is better, taking out revenge or forgiving people who have wronged you? Which is better for you, for the person themselves? Not what's better for the person you're doing it to, but what's better for you. So let me open up our story now, or our article. This article comes from PBS, actually. You know the assignment. You're doing your vocabulary, of course, but specifically, you're going to have to do 3 to 5 annotations on this, talking about, revenge or forgiveness. As we're reading, I'm going to point out to you sentences that I would use as good quotes for my essay if I was writing one. But of course, you can pick your own quotes because it's what this means to you and how you find meaning in it and how you can use this article, if you'd like, in your essay to help you to answer that question, to bolster your answer. Remember, you don't want to just give your opinion. You want to give your opinion and then say, well, also, there's this important person over here, this author of this article, and they have some very important things to say about it. In fact, consider the following quote from the article, Understanding Forgiveness. You know the rest. So let's go. Understanding Forgiveness. What is forgiveness? How does forgiving another help us? And how can we cultivate forgiveness in our lives? The body of research on forgiveness has grown in the last 2 decades from nearly non-existent to hundreds of studies and dozens of books. Researchers are finding a powerful connection between forgiving others and our own well-being. Ding, 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 ding. Did you hear that sentence? That's the sentence right there. That is perfect. Listen again. Researchers are finding a powerful connection between forgiving others and our own well-being. So, consider the following quote from the article, Understand Forgiveness. Researchers are finding a powerful connection between forgiving others and our well-being. This quote clearly shows that forgiveness is the best choice over revenge. Why? Because it helps our own well-being. And then let's find out some more. I'm sure we're going to get some more information here. So let's go. What is forgiveness? Researchers who study forgiveness and its effects on our well-being and happiness are very specific about how they define forgiveness. So this is important, actually. I mean, we've already read an article defining forgiveness. I believe that's exactly, that was called Forgiveness Defined. Pardon me, that was our second source. But here's another way of defining forgiveness. Listen, psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky calls forgiveness a shift in thinking towards someone who has wronged you, such that your desire to harm that person has decreased and your desire to do him good or to benefit your relationship has increased. Now, that's an interesting thing. Listen to that quote. Your desire to harm that person is decreased, and your desire to do him good or to benefit your relationship is increased. Think about that's actually an interesting quote, and I would use that. Think about this. I mean, think about you live with people, especially during coronavirus. If this is, this you're reading this during coronavirus. If it's years later, you remember the time. But think about that. If you're living with somebody, if you're in a home with somebody, if you're stuck with them, if you're always together, they're going to do things that are wrong to you. Sometimes they're going to do mean things, right? And it is the only way that you can move forward is to forgive them. Heck, think of A Raisin in the Sun and what Walter did with the family money. He went out and he lost it. He gave it to some knuckleheads who went and stole their money. Technically, you could say that Walter was the knucklehead for doing it. And remember how mad they were. Mama beat him in the face. Beneatha was freaking out. You're no brother of mine. Well, at the end, they had to understand, and they did, that if you didn't forgive him, then you can't be together anymore. You can't be a family anymore. And then what happens to your family? It's destroyed. So look at this quote. Such that your desire to harm that person is decreased and your desire to do them good or benefit your relationship has increased. And you might want to talk about that because relationships, being a human being means being in relationships, whether it's with your family, with your friends, with your teachers, with your future spouses. And how do you keep those relationships strong? By forgiving. You can't take out revenge on the person you live with. Imagine that. Like your wife does something that's mean to you and you take out your revenge on her or onto your husband or onto your brother or your sister. It just doesn't work, of course. Of course, I always go back to Romeo and Juliet. Think about what revenge did to those families. I mean, it destroyed them because it never ends. I'm going to shut up now. Let's continue. Researchers are very clear about what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. Forgiveness is one person's inner response to another person's injustice. Reconciliation is two people coming together in mutual respect. Reconciliation requires both parties working together. Forgiveness is something that is entirely up to you. Although reconciliation may follow forgiveness, it is possible to forgive without reestablishing or continuing the relationship. That is a very interesting point as well. Think about that. You can, a friend of, it's hard to not continue your relationship with a family member, but imagine if a friend does you wrong and you forgive them. You don't want to do them anything wrong. You're not doing any kind of you're not hoping that they get hurt or something like that. But you also don't want to be friends with them anymore. Now that's interesting. Never thought about that, how you can forgive somebody and you say, listen, I forgive you for what you did, but I can't be your friend anymore because I can't be friends with people who do that. It's a very interesting idea and point. It even says, though, that reconciliation can come later, but it doesn't have to be part of the forgiveness. Okay, so although reconciliation may follow forgiveness, it is possible to forgive without reestablishing or continuing the relationship. The person you forgave may be deceased or no longer part of your life. That's another interesting point. Let's say you had a relative who did something wrong to you and then they died, right? And you never had a chance to forgive them, or you never did forgive them. Can you forgive them after they have passed away? Interesting. You may also choose not to reconcile, perhaps because you have no reason to believe that a relationship with the other person is healthy for you. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgive and forget seem to go together. However, the process of forgiving involves acknowledging to yourself the wrong that was done to you, reflecting on it, and deciding how do you want to think about it. Focusing on forgetting a wrong might lead to denying or suppressing feelings about it, which is not the same as forgiveness. Now, that's very interesting. Focusing on forgetting a wrong might lead to denying or suppressing feelings about it. So they're saying trying to forget a wrong that was done to you is actually damaging to you. It's better to forgive, which is not the same as forgiveness. Forgiveness has taken place when you can remember the wrong that was done without feeling resentment or a desire to pursue revenge. So once again, it's telling us what forgiveness is. And it says it has taken place when forgiveness hasn't taken place when you forget what happened to you. It's when you can remember it and not be angry about it, or not get that feeling of want to go after that person and get revenge against them. Sometimes after we get to this point, we may forget about some of the wrongs people have done to us, but we don't have to forget in order to forgive. Forgiveness is not condoning or excusing. Forgiveness does not minimize, justify, or excuse the wrong that was done. That's very interesting because you're forgiving somebody. You're not telling them that what they did was right. And a lot of people won't forgive people for things they've done because they're afraid that that's the case. Listen, when somebody does something wrong in my family, and I do forgive them, I absolutely don't excuse what they did. And if you know me any bit, you know I'm going to explain to them several times why I did find it wrong. So just you don't have to excuse it. Forgiveness also does not mean denying the harm and the feelings that the injustice produced. That's also a very important quote. Does not mean denying the harm and the feelings that the injustice produced. In other words, you can forgive somebody, but the pain can still be there. Before it said the pain might go away, but it might still be there. Let's see. I lost my spot. Hold on. There it is. And forgiveness does not mean putting yourself in a position to be harmed again. You can forgive someone and still take healthy steps to protect yourself, including choosing not to reconcile. So some people think that if you're forgiving them, you have to be their friends again. This article says you do not. I find that interesting. Forgiveness is not justice. Interesting. Think about this. If someone does something wrong to you, that's like illegally wrong to you, I don't want to come up with an example. You can come up with your own. Forgiving them for it is not the same as them receiving the punishment that they should have gotten legally, right? Or from the justice system. Let's see what they said. Forgiveness is not justice. It is certainly easier to forgive someone who sincerely apologizes and makes amends. However, justice, which may include acknowledgement of the wrong, apologies, punishment, restitution, or compensation, is separate from forgiveness. You may pursue your rights for justice with or without forgiving someone. Now, that is so interesting. So you can forgive someone for doing you wrong, but you can still sue them, or you can still press charges against them legally, and both things can happen. You can forgive them, and you can say, no, I want you to go to jail for what you did. So interesting. Or I want to sue you for what you did. And if justice is denied, you can still choose whether or not to forgive. Forgiveness is a powerful choice you can make when it's right for you that can lead to greater well-being and better relationships. OMG. Last sentence. So it's very interesting. You got that really good sentence up at the beginning, and look at that great quote at the end. Look at it, seriously. Forgiveness is a powerful choice you can make when it's right for you that can lead to greater well-being and better relationships. OMG. We've been pushing through all these articles, the reason why, and the articles have been right on saying it. We've had scientists tell us, doctors tell us in these articles, leaders, people who have been wronged in the speech. We've been told that the reason why you want to forgive and it's better than taking revenge is because it's better for you. But that second part, that it can lead to better relationships, that's a really interesting point. It can be a really good way it could be a good thing to talk about, whether or not it's your introduction or your conclusion or just sprinkled throughout the entire paper, right? Because you're always looking for those big ideas as to why your thesis is, and your thesis will probably be that forgiveness is better than revenge because it's better for you and because it fixes your relationships. And then you can spend 3 or 4 sentences talking about relationships and how they are important in life. I mean, you have relationships with everybody, your family, your friends, your teachers, your boyfriends and girlfriends, all of those people. Heck, you have a relationship with your mailman. If your relationship with your mailman's not good, you're finding your mail in the street, right? You have a relationship with your neighbors, and if your relationship's not good with the neighbors, you can have problems. So think about life is full of relationships, and if you can't forgive, then those relationships crack and they dissolve, they break up, and it's over for you. Guys, great job. I believe we should have. I mean, I know I did. Several sentences for your annotations and ideas for your final essay, which is coming up soon, considering this is the last source for our last essay. Ladies and gentlemen, great job. Thank you very much. Have a great day. See you later.